This program on investing under regulation crowdfunding is not investment advice.
Rising with the crowd, power unbound, change makers lead where hope is found. Superpowers for good, shaping the fate. Investors and dreamers open the gate. Supercross stands loud, proud and true, building tomorrow for me and you.
Do you remember being a kid and being fascinated by the big, huge equipment that could lift massive amounts of things, huge things, that kind of stuff? Well, I am too. I was always fascinated by those big, huge pieces of equipment. I remember watching a building build in our neighborhood and watching the huge crane lifting stuff. It's amazing stuff. Our guest today is developing a technology that replaces hydraulics, allowing for electric motors to power all of this technology, facilitating the transition to a green, clean economy. This is really exciting stuff. Stick around. You don't want to miss this. Now, welcome to the Super Crowd Presents Superpowers for Good. I'm the host, Devin Thorpe, and I'm thrilled to have with me today Hiten Sonpal. Jeez Louise, you'd think I could come up with it. I trained for hours on this. I apologize. I think it only took 4 tries, but I think we got there. Sonpal, right?
That is correct.
Okay. I apologize, but we're thrilled to have you. You're doing big things. You are a big deal. Your business is big. Tell us about RISE Robotics.
Well, that was an incredible introduction. Yes, we are working on big, heavy machines. And in fact, that's the thing that inspired the founders of RISE Robotics, 3 of whom went to MIT to start this company. Their passion was to build large exosuits. So think human amplifiers, everything from helping the military to warehouse workers to the elderly, amplifying their strength, kind of like an Iron Man suit, but without the jetpack. And in that journey, they discovered that they couldn't solve that problem with the technology of the day, hydraulics, because it required pumps, it required reservoirs, it was inefficient, it required hoses, leaked everywhere. And so they came up with an alternative technology that we now call Beltdraulics. Beltdraulics was inspired by looking at nature and human and mammal muscles, which work as fibers in tension, as opposed to hydraulics, which works with fluids in compression. And so, inspired by that technology, they came up with a replacement for hydraulics. And once they did that, they also realized that the exosuit market would have to be developed, but the hydraulics market was already ripe for disruption.
It really is cool technology that you're really talking about replacing the technology. Think about the lift on a dump truck, right? The things that lift massive amounts of weight. We've used hydraulics. This is remarkable technology, a huge leap forward. You shared kind of the story of how this came about. How did you get connected to the project?
Yeah, so I had a friend who worked at RISE Robotics, and I was checking in with him to see how he was doing, and he mentioned he was working at RISE, and I asked, what are they doing? And he kind of explained what they were doing, and he said that they were building a hydraulics replacement tech, and I thought, oh, surely it's another kind of screw type actuator, and he said, no, we're using belts. And my initial reaction was, I don't think that's possible. I don't think you can get anywhere close to the same performance. And he's like, Hiten, you should check out the patents. So I did look at the patents. And at that point, I just sort of had this visceral reaction that, look, there's something here. These guys are onto something. And so I came in for a visit and I saw the lab here and I realized that the founders had spent $0 on creature comforts, which is exactly what I like to see in a startup. Everything should go into the tech development and product development. So I got to meet them and they asked me to join as a consultant. And at some point, they convinced me to join as CEO. So that was my journey joining RISE Robotics.
Well, it is. What a fun journey. This is such cool technology. Give us a sense of some of the target niches, the target opportunities that early implementation spaces that you're seeing? I think you've got some products now that people can order. Are we? I think we're to that stage, right?
That is correct. Yes. When I joined, we didn't have anything that the company could sell. And so our business development was limited. We had to fly in engineers to our lab to show them our stuff, have them take measurements. And I wanted to really expand our business development funnel. So we decided to build a sample cylinder that we could sell to anybody. We launched it at Bauma in April of this year. Bauma is the world's largest construction show, happens in Germany once every 3 years. We had over 200 leads, and we've prioritized them based on uh, who can meet us where we are. So what's the least amount of development that we have to do to make our customers happy? And then on the basis of that, we started selling our samples. And as part of that process, we discovered a new vertical that we hadn't expected, which is the oil and gas space. Now, oil and gas production isn't going away anywhere. Um, but it is still one of the most polluting industries today. And so if there's anything we can do to clean that up, we thought that it would be fantastic just from a company mission perspective, but it's also useful to our customers because our technology is 3 times as fast as hydraulics, 3 times as efficient, and 3 times as durable. And these are all things that the uh, oil and gas sector really needs. So we found an early adopter there that can allow us to sell products into them, clean up their industry, and also allow us to make high margins. It's a win-win all around.
That it's a great first step. As you look at the future, it seems to me that hydraulics are used in an almost infinite number of places, elevators, and you know, almost every crane probably has some hydraulics in it, if not being entirely hydraulic. Most tractor trailers of any sort, farm equipment, it's just everywhere. Is the Beltdraulics technology developed potentially a replacement for all of that?
Yes, that is definitely our North Star. Hydraulics is a $600 billion industry across many verticals. And our intention is to, at some point, target the entire $600 billion market. That's going to take winning one vertical at a time. And we're starting with oil and gas, as I mentioned, because we can get high margins and they really value the properties of our technology. But we also have contracts with the Department of Defense. Predominantly the Air Force and more recently with the Army, and we're looking to expand to other services as well. And then we have interest from the maritime sector. We've got interest from forestry. We have interest from mining. We have interest from transportation and logistics, and a whole host of other sectors that are just, as you mentioned, hydraulics is all over the place.
Yeah, it's such a huge industry, which means your potential, your growth, your potential scale is really pretty astronomical. Uh, Give us a little sense of the competitive landscape. Is this an enormous space you can own yourselves in some time, or are you going to face competition? Give us a little sense of your read on that.
Yeah, so our competition is definitely the incumbents, right? Folks that currently manufacture hydraulic systems. There are companies that manufacture hydraulic replacement technology like screw type linear actuators, which aren't really a threat to us. In fact, those companies are ideal partners for us. Companies that are making screw type actuators, kind of, as we talk to them, they realize that their portfolio is on one side of the bell curve of the hydraulics performance curve, and we're sort of on the other side a little bit. Most screw type actuators top out at 18 inches. They top out at a certain max speed, and then they also top out at roughly 2 to 3 tons of force. And that's where we start. So we start at roughly 2 tons. That's the smallest actuator we can make today. And in terms of length, we start at 18 inches. We can certainly make them smaller, but the longer you make our actuators, the more cost effective we get, because our actuators, as you extend them, you're extending mostly air. And we can operate at very high speeds, up to 2 meters a second, which is almost unheard of by screw type actuators. Because if you try to use one of those, you start to encounter a bunch of whip on the main screw. So you can't really run them that fast. So as we've spoken to these companies, we've realized these are ideal partners. They can be manufacturing, sales, and distribution partners for us. And so we've opened up a number of conversations with these folks so that we can continue to stay a tech company and we can use partnerships to scale our business.
That's a brilliant strategy, and I love the complementary nature of the screw type actuator industry becoming real strategic partners for you as you roll this out. Hiten, as you think about the future, a future in which we are transitioning substantially to a greener, cleaner economy. How do you see this playing? It seems to me this kind of technology at some point becomes essential. That whether it's at the component level or the equipment, the finished product level, there may be regulation that will require people to make transitions to this kind of stuff because it has the potential to be zero emission, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think? Do you see a future where that could be the case to provide a little tailwind for the business growth?
Yes, it's happening already. So, for example, the state of California is requiring that all of its ports convert to zero emissions by 2030. And that's an incredible challenge because when you take an existing hydraulic container handler, for example, and you convert it to electric, the price doubles. If you had a system that costs $400,000, now it costs $800,000. And the economics are just not compelling at that point. So the state of California has to issue vouchers to get companies to buy the electric equipment. And then the voucher program runs out in the first couple of weeks because folks will only buy the equipment if they get the vouchers. And then after the first 2 weeks, nobody buys any electric equipment anymore, any battery powered equipment in the ports. And so this is where we come in because our technology allows us to reduce the battery size required to convert these hydraulic systems into electric systems by 50%. So an equivalent Beltdraulics system that runs on batteries will require a battery that's half the size. And so instead of costing $800,000, now we cost $600,000, which is a huge step in the right direction. But then on top of that, we also reduce the demands on the charging infrastructure. So any upgrades that have to be done to the charging infrastructure now cost half as much, or for the same amount of infrastructure, we can run twice as many systems. In addition to that, our systems run faster. So overall, at the system level, we're twice as productive. So even though our customers would be paying 50% more, they'd get systems with throughput that's twice as much. It's worth an $800,000 system. So that's exciting. And that's exciting for the folks that operate the ports and need to buy this equipment. But also for the state, it's really important because our technology reduces the demands on the grid for electrification. That's going to be a choke point now with AI taking up so much energy. So with Beltdraulics, you can reduce the amount of additional generation you need by 50%, the amount of additional transmission you need by 50%, and as I mentioned, the charging infrastructure by 50%. And this applies to hydrogen fuel cell machines as well. Your tank size is cut by half. The size of your catalytic converter, which is the most expensive part, is also cut by half. The battery on the machine, again, cut by half. And the station that you have electrolyzing the water at the port, also half in size. So we by addressing the inefficiency at the edge of the network, we're able to generate wins across the full chain, everything from generation to distribution to charging to consumption.
And if I'm reading right, I think it's also lower maintenance, right? You're more durable, longer lasting, less service required. So there's savings there too for the equipment buyers. So, wow, it's just
That's right.
layer upon layer of benefit there, isn't there?
Yes. And specifically to
Very
your point
exciting.
about maintenance, not only are we more durable, but we change the nature of maintenance. So if you think about how maintenance used to be done, it used to be reactive. And folks moved to a schedule. It's called proactive maintenance, but you're still maintaining things before they break down. And you don't know how much time you've got left, but you've just come up with the schedule that works for you. What we do is we transition from preventative maintenance to proactive maintenance, where the machine will tell you, hey, my belt is degrading. It's time for you to service the machine. And that service interval will happen depending on the use of the machine. So you don't have to pick a scheduled preventive maintenance. If you haven't used the machine for a while, it's not going to ask you to maintain it. Whereas if you had a
Yeah,
schedule, you just do the work anyway, right?
yeah, yeah.
So
Very
we
cool.
end up saving a lot on maintenance. Yes.
Yeah. Well, we got to take a quick break, Hiten. But folks, I'm here today with Hiten Sonpal. And Hiten is the CEO of RISE Robotics, this amazing technology company that is prepared to replace hydraulics across the board. Very exciting technology, industrial, huge industry, huge scale, raising capital from the crowd on Wefunder. Oh my gosh, this is one to check out for sure. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk to Hiten about his superpower. Stick around.
Download a free copy of How to Make Money with Impact Crowdfunding, the book Sarah Hanks describes as
a fantastic overview, not just of crowdfunding investing, but of investing in general.
Andrew Savickas raved,
"This book offers unparalleled insights for anyone looking to make a difference."
Scan the QR code to get your copy.
At Super Green Live, climate capital meets innovation. Join investors and entrepreneurs building real solutions for a sustainable future. From live pitches to expert insights, discover how impact capital powers climate action.
We're looking at a future powered by innovation, a world where technology and sustainability converge for the greater good.
Be part of the movement. Register now at supergreenlive.org. Struggling to raise capital for your business? Unlock the power of the crowd with AI. My free guide, Crowdfunding Made Simple, walks you through every step to success. Get funded smarter, faster. Scan the QR code now for your free download.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm here today with Hiten Sonpal. He is the CEO of RISE Robotics, an amazing company replacing hydraulics with a cleaner, brighter future. We're going to shift gears now to talk to Hiten about his superpower. Stick around. Hiten, you're a big deal, running a very successful company, doing amazing things, very successful crowdfunding campaign nearing its conclusion now. What is your superpower?
Yeah, so I've got two, I'd say, smaller superpowers. The first one is building high-performing teams. I believe that to have a high-performing team, you need a team that's diverse, and by that I don't mean like surface diversity. I mean diversity of experiences, diversity of ideas, diversity of passions, and diversity of interests. Once you get a diverse set of folks around the table and get the talent right, then the next part is building a culture of healthy conflict so folks can speak up and actually collaborate with each other. There's a give and take, and folks have to find a way to expand the size of the pie, right? As opposed to compromising, getting the teams to collaborate to healthy conflict. And then on top of that, creating a culture of psychological safety so that folks are free to speak up their mind. Even if they aren't going to get what they want, they understand it's at least safe to speak up and to point out things that need to get addressed, and also to take ownership of addressing them. So building high-performing teams, I believe, is one of my superpowers. And the other one is making that team successful by cutting scope. So one example is when I joined RISE Robotics, we had a liftgate project that was 60% complete. And the team told me it was 60% complete, and it was paused. And so I asked the team for the requirements document, and I spent 2 weeks on it with a red pen. And then I went back to the team and I said, now it's 80% complete. So let's get it to 90%, show it to a customer, and let the customer tell us what the last 10% is. So I enjoy helping teams get unstuck by finding ways to reduce the complexity of the problem, by reduce the scope, and then give them a path forward that they can accomplish.
That's great. And I love how you shared a very specific example of that. As you think about your superpower of building successful teams, I wonder if you could think of a similar illustration of a team, and maybe that's a specific project that you've taken on there at RISE, or maybe a past company, but maybe you can think of a specific time when you build a team that was able to then accomplish something great.
Yeah, so I've got two examples, one around psychological safety and one around accomplishment. I spent a large portion of my career at iRobot, where teams that I led generated over 2 billion in revenues, shipped over 9 million units, 20 products. I was leading one of those product teams, and we had to go for a build to China, and that's where most consumer products were made. This is five years ago, and I asked the team to coordinate a bunch of things, and then I went 1 week ahead. Then the rest of the team showed up. We came back and we did a debrief, and the build and our visit to China didn't go well. And so when we were doing the retrospective, one of the folks said, you know, one of the reasons why this hasn't turned out well is because we could have used a little bit more central coordination. And it was said obliquely, but he was basically calling me out for not being there when the team needed me to set up the plan together that would get them to be successful. Each group had done their own planning, but the synthesis across the functions, which was my responsibility, hadn't been done. And for him to be able to call me out in a group, right, of all my reports, made me realize that I was actually leading the team well. They felt safe enough to hold me to a higher bar of performance. So that's one example of psychological safety working out well. And it's people like that have the courage. They know they can speak up, but then they take the opportunity to speak up. They make me a better leader. My second example is we had a decision to make on a lawnmower that I was working for iRobot on. I was leading the team for the Terra lawnmower. This is Roomba for your lawn. And we had a decision to make around the water sensor. And what we found out was that the water sensor design that we had picked had several challenges. If you got any kind of FOD on the water sensor, it would get confused and it would think it was raining outside when it wasn't, and the robot would stop working. And so we did a brainstorming session where I asked everyone to show up to the table with different options. One option was to switch to what automotive companies use. The challenge with that is expensive. The second option was to put a machine learning algorithm onto the system and then have it figure out whether there's FOD or water. We could do that, but the software team was constrained and they had other features to work on. And the last option was to take off the sensor completely. And as we collaborated, we realized that if we just took off the sensor, and someone else sort of suggested this, if we take off the sensor and we start looking at rain using weather data, then we've saved cost in the system and we've made the system more accurate and we made the system more reliable because there's no longer a hole in the shell where water can leak through. So this was one of those situations where we ended up doing less on the project, cutting the cost of goods and having an output that was equivalent to what was before. And things like that only happen where teams show up to the table with their best ideas and then are giving and taking. So I thought that was a meaningful accomplishment for our team. We ended up saving probably $6 in cost, which is huge for a consumer product.
Oh, sure. And as you think about this is a great segue to the, my last question about your superpowers, which is how could you coach us as other leaders trying to be more effective? How could you coach us to build better teams and to create that safety and reduce the burden on your teams, as in the ways you've discussed? We just have time for one or two quick tips.
I think this is a cliche, but feedback is a gift. So creating an environment where folks can give you feedback if they don't feel comfortable doing it in public, which can sometimes be awkward, but finding you and making sure that your office or your cube is always available for a conversation goes a long way. If a leader ends up using their position and their set of knowledges to make all the decisions in a business, then the ceiling of the business is the leader's ceiling. But if you can create an environment where your team is giving you the best ideas and getting you to steer the business, and you're merely helping unblock the team, well, then the ceiling of the business is the combined ceiling of the whole team, which is huge. So that would be my one bit of advice.
Yeah. Now, just a few seconds here left. You have created, I think it's the most successful Reg CF offering in the history of the state of Massachusetts, one of the 80 most successful in history, huge success, ending very, very soon. People need to take advantage. If they want to get in, they've got to get in now. Tell us a little bit as we wrap up now, how can people learn more? How can they connect with you? How can they follow you in your success going forward? Give us some connection tips.
Sure. So folks can see our campaign at wefunder.com/RISE Robotics. And what's exciting about our campaign, and one of the reasons why folks have jumped on, is that we're offering the same terms or very similar terms to what we've offered our institutional investors in our last round. So So you can be assured that we're doing right by our investors, which is exciting to us, exciting to our board, and to the leadership team here at RISE Robotics. And then if you want to see more about our products and our progress, you can certainly follow us on social media, on LinkedIn. And you can also check out our website at riserobotics.com.
And I need to congratulate you one more time for winning the Judge's Choice Award at the I think it was the June live pitch, Superpowers for Good. So congratulations on that. Listen, I love what you're doing. It's an essential, vital step in creating a more green, clean economy, a fossil-free world. So listen, we want to see you succeed. We want to see you finish strong. Thank you very much for being here. We wish you every success.
Thank you, Devin. I really appreciate it.
All righty now, let's do some good.